Three words. This was awesome. Like, I can't even get over how awesome this was. And I don't usually like horror movies. Like, I avoid them like the plague, but because this was something made by Markiplier, I was like, oh, I have to see it. And then I was like, oh no, I won't be able to see it because it's only going to be shown in the US. And I was like so gutted until I heard that it was coming to Europe and the UK. And I was like, right, get those tickets, let's go. So I just went to my local cinema. I was so happy it was at my local cinema as well. I didn't have to travel far. Nothing like that. I could literally just go to my hometown cinema and just go and watch it. I was so thrilled. And it was so weird because I was like, years ago they used to have posters outside of what was being shown in the cinema. They don't do that anymore. So when I was inside, I was like, is there anything to show the Iron Lungs being shown here? Is there anything, just anything for me, just to, you know, come to terms with the fact it's being shown here? And I went to one of the screens and there it was on the screen. I was like, oh my gosh! I was like, this is amazing! I was so thrilled. Obviously we didn't get the blood buckets, and if I had a 3D printer I would have done all that jazz, but sadly I don't have a 3D printer. But armed with my Darkiplier shirt and a lovely pouch, bag, bucket, whatever, of popcorn, I ventured in to find my seat so I could sit down and enjoy the movie. Oh my gosh, I was like, oh, I was so excited and nervous because I was like, I get nervous going to the cinema because too many people. But I was like, oh my gosh, I get to watch this. I've been hearing about this for like 3-4 years. I get to finally watch it. I get to finally see it. And I had a good view. I was right at the back. Best place to be. Because you just got, you know, the screen in front of you. I know a lot of people tend to go for like the middle or the back, but not middle or the back, middle and the front. But I tend to always, when I go to the cinema, sit at the back. And it was packed in there. There was like 1 or 2 seats that were empty. And the worst part for me was waiting half an hour through adverts. I mean, oh my gosh, it was so irritating. I was like, why is there half an hour of ads before this movie? Just let me watch it, please. But anyway, I digress. So I gotta admit, I was very emotional. Like, not, well, very maybe over exaggeration, but I did find I was getting emotional as I was watching it because obviously this is something Mark has been working on for years now, and it was finally here, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's finally here. I finally get to see it. And I'm able to see it. Like, I was so worried that it was just going to be American-based, and that was it. But it was so good. Obviously, I can't video or take pictures of the movie while I was in there. That is just wrong. I just, you're just going to have to take everything I say. And there will be spoilers. I am going to spoil some of the plot because I'm going to have to. It's a review. So, I was very nervous about this because not that I had any reason to be, but I don't like horror movies. I don't actively go out to watch them. I only watch them in circumstances such as this, where it's a creator I trust who's worked hard on it, and I go watch it for that. And obviously, like with Five Nights at Freddy's, that's a different thing as well, because that is made in a way that isn't like stereotypically horror. Like, it's more a mystery for me, because like obviously the lore has become overwhelming I mean, we still don't know what's going on with that franchise, and that's it. So, I don't deal well with gore to some extent. Like, it depends how the gore is handled. And, I mean, I'm a Judge Dredd fan, so there's a lot of gore in Judge Dredd. Believe me, especially in the 2012, I think it was 2012 movie. There is a lot of gore in that. So, when, obviously, Mark's been talking about all the blood they had to use on the set and stuff, I was very worried that a lot of the film I would have to watch under my coat, because I was just so nervous that it was going to be too gory. But it wasn't at all. I thought it was going to be an 18. The way it was being talked, I really thought it was going to be an 18, but it wasn't. It was a 15, so I could cope with it. And there wasn't anything too supernatural in it, so I could cope with that as well, because I struggle with my mental health a lot, so that's another reason why I don't watch horror movies, because sometimes they do play with my head. So I was fine with this. I was a little bit out of it afterwards, like I wasn't quite with it, but overall I loved the movie. Like, it was so well done, it was so well made. The lighting added to the claustrophobia, like the fact that there was a lack of lighting, which at times did irritate me, because I was like, I can't see what's going on. But that was the whole point, is it gave that atmosphere, the authenticity. Like, it's annoying when you watch, like, movies and they're using flashlights in a quite bright lit room, because it takes away from the realism of it. It's like, oh, you don't really need to use a torch, because, you know, the room is lit enough as it is. But in this, it really... And in fact, he was struggling so much to deal with the darkness as well, because he couldn't see. Just as much as the audience couldn't see, he couldn't see. And I thought that was brilliant. We were literally with the character of Simon in his steps, in his shoes, basically, because we couldn't see much. The character couldn't see much, and he kept hitting the button to activate the camera just so he could see something for a few seconds. And it felt authentic. Like, the fact that this man was stuck inside a tin can, basically, being lowered down to the bottom of this moon, bottom of the depths of this moon, to do something he didn't even know why he was doing it. It wasn't like, oh, I volunteered, I'm doing this heroically. No, he was reluctant to do it. He was only doing it so he could get his freedom, because he was a convict. And that is such a common story, in a sense, for a lot of convicts. They do things just so they can get more, freedom earlier. I mean, that's the whole premise of Suicide Squad. Well, both the comics and the movies. So it's established that he's a convict from the start, but at the same time, you still feel sorry for him, because no one wants to be cooped up in a can. Like, there's so many reasons why I don't like going in elevators, because it is a cramped space. You can't see outside it. You don't know what's going on outside it, and that's the whole thing about this. He's in a sub, which he can't look outside because the glass is not strong enough. He can't see anything other than using the camera, and the camera takes a moment in time, just a moment. And once that moment is captured, whatever he sees, that's already happened. Like, if there was a creature there, when he takes the next shot, it's gone. And he wasn't able to see it move. That's the beauty of it as well. And I think that was the beauty of the game in the original place anyway, is the idea of, oh, there's a thing and it's gone and I didn't see where it went. It could have gone left, it could have gone right, but in that few seconds between the two camera shots, it's gone. And you're just like, oh, where's it gone? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Where is it? And this is something else I loved as well, because when the creature was attacking the sub, you didn't see it attack the sub. There was no outside shot of the whatever the creature was ramming at the sub. Nope, there was no outside. It was so much better for that, because you couldn't predict when it hit it. Like, if someone's about to come and hit you, you can still brace yourself, like cover your face, that kind of thing. There was nothing there to indicate when it was going to hit you. You just had the fact that there's something outside, you don't know where it is in this ocean of blood, and you just gotta brace yourself any second, because any second you can get hit. And I loved that. I loved how they kept the scene basically confined to one set. I love that, because even though there was a shot where Markiplier's character of Simon is talking to the captain who's sending him down, you don't see the room very well where the captain is. You don't see the other crew members very well. It's just a blur, because the blood is dripping down the sub, because it's just been down in the, ocean of blood. And it's more realistic like that. The fact she's wiping away the blood every time to talk to him, because the blood just keeps spilling over from when it's just coming over the, it's just spilling naturally from the top of the sub. And that was brilliant. And the frustration and aggravation in the characters, like, it made so much sense. Because, I mean, if you were cooped up and your life was being put at risk, you would be a bit aggravated and angry, especially if you didn't know what was going on or why things were happening. You wouldn't be, content with, okay, you're sending me down to this, moon, to the oceans of this moon, and hoping for me to find something, even though I don't know what I'm looking for, but you are telling me last minute what I have to do, and then I gotta carry it out without actually being able to see it. It does mess with you. And then when he's abandoned eventually, like they cut the cord, that's it, he's abandoned, it's very heart-wrenching. I did find it heart-wrenching, because he was on his own and no way of getting back up. He literally had to rely on whatever he had in the sub. And when he downs the water and then afterwards realises, I could have preserved that or used that for something else. And he just turns around and says, I was so frickin' stupid. Why was I so stupid? It's such a human reaction. All of this was quite understandable. Like, if you were in the same shoes, you might have downed the water and then realised, I needed to preserve that. I needed to keep that for later on, for something else. And it's a very human performance. Like, being, stressed, being drained, being dehydrated, because he kept complaining how hot he was. And, like, I find that, especially during summer, that's where my temper goes much easier, because the heat is getting to me and I can't cope. I feel claustrophobic just with the heat alone, without being cooped up in this one set, this one environment for, I think it was several days. The character was in there. Like, I would have lost my rag easily in that environment. And the fact that, like, he also showed how he was persevering, he was trying to make it. He was doing everything humanly possible, from ripping up pieces of clothing for bandages, from, messing around with wires, even though some mysterious character left him little clues and hints, and the pendant, which I'm almost sure is a tree seed. I'm almost sure that's a tree seed from the last tree in the lore of this universe. And, you were with him. You were with him every step. And you didn't even have to say much. That's the beauty as well. I feel like a lot of movies these days think the audience are dumb. I don't mean that harshly, but they tend to spell everything out to you vocally. Like, oh, I'm going to the shop now. You don't need to keep saying everything that's happening unless you're a radio program. You don't need to keep saying everything that's happening. A lot of language between humans is not just vocal, it is also visual. Actions, the movements, the expressions we have on our faces, that all conveys what needs to be shown. If our face is frowning, it shows we're sad. If our face is smiling, it shows we're happy. You don't need to constantly hammer it into us what's going on. And this movie didn't hammer it all the time. It let the audience absorb what was going on through Mark's performance, through the other actors' performance. And as well, we had several voices we heard. We never got to see who they belonged to. That was brilliant as well, because we're literally like thinking, who is this person? We had nothing to reference to. We had nothing to put a face to. And that also added to the fact that Mark was alone. And Simon was alone in this. Like, we only had him as a character to rely on, and the captain. But again, a lot of the shots with her were quite blurred because she's literally looking through blood at Mark when she's talking to him, and then when he's down in the sub, he's only got her voice to rely on. He's only got voices, and then when he has his mental breakdown, and he's like, I just want someone to talk to. I just want to hear someone so I know I'm not alone. And that was so heartbreaking. Because we've all been there. We've all been feeling like we need someone just to comfort us in that moment of confusion and darkness. I was constantly hoping that Simon would be able to be free in the end. Which, in the end, it completely contrasted how we met Simon at the beginning. Because he was all about just, let me have my freedom. I want to be free. And that was never guaranteed. The captain would not guarantee it until later on in the movie. And it was so well written because it gave you all the lore that was originally in the games, but it also added to it as well. But not in a way that it damaged the original lore or deviated too far from it. It felt in universe. It stayed in universe, which was really good. Like, it just paid so much respect to the original creator of Iron Lung, while also expanding upon it. It was so well done. And it wasn't like cheesy dialogue, like, oh, I shall best thee. Like, it was nothing like that, not He-Man level. But it was human. The dialogue was human. The expressions, the anger, the anguish, the grief, the pain, everything was so well performed and so well written. And when Simon has his mental breakdown, like, it worked really well at, like, making the audience question every aspect from then on. Like, is this real? Is the captain's voice real now? Or is it fake? Or is everything fake? Like, is the point where he hit his head the point where everything becomes blurred between reality? Or was it from this point that everything was not as it seems? Like, it was really good at doing that. And I kind of like those where it plays on the, reality versus the mind, in a sense. Like, what's real in our heads is not necessarily true. And that that when he had his mental breakdown, that was really hard to watch, but at the same time amazingly performed. You could see the pain in Mark's eyes, you can see the anger, and it was so well done. And that was what made it amazing about the character of Simon as well, because all he wants is his freedom. That's, if you were going to do a character bio, he wants his freedom. He was convicted wrongly in his mind, though there's no proof to free him. And then he goes down reluctantly in the sub just so he can have his freedom. And in the end, he doesn't get it anyway. That is the tragedy of this movie. And that's what a horror is. A horror is tragic. There's not supposed to be a happy ending to a horror, because at the end of the day, that's what a horror genre is. It's, this is a scenario where things won't go right. This is not Disney. This is not DreamWorks. This will not go well. This is not how it's gonna go for you guys. And when he finally had his last conversation with the captain, and she said, I can't save you. That it was just a punch to the stomach. It really was. But I think also in that moment, Simon realizes, well, if I don't get out of this, I better do something good in my last moments. And ultimately, he did rescue the information that the captain needed. But I really felt for Simon. I really did. And that's good. When you feel for a character, you really you want everything to go well, and it won't. But despite that, you still hope something will go well. No matter what. Even if all the facts are pointing completely in the wrong direction, you really hoped that the character would survive. One thing also about this is, even though the ending is tragic, it still is also weirdly hopeful. Like that shot where Simon's ship is gone, and then you're left with his package, shall we say, inflated life jacket and a light floating up to the surface, and just floating there waiting for someone to come and get it. Like that, it's tragic, but in a way it has a similar ending to Rogue One, where all the main cast die, but in their dying actions they get the information to the ship where Princess Leia is on, and it's tragic but it is hopeful. And that's what this felt like to me, is even though he didn't survive, his actions did lead to hopefully others surviving and living, and Eden improving and getting better after what happened. So I was really thrown aback by it. It was such a good story. It was so well made. Like, the set looks so incredible and creepy, and it was almost like the TARDIS. Like, the one moment you think you know all the features of it, and then all of a sudden it gives you other things that are included in the sub. Like, he goes down in this really cramped vent to get to find some power up systems to get the power back on, and it was so cramped, especially when he had to go there when the blood was starting to pour in, and it was so just hearing him struggle through the blood, like trying, because this is the thing, it's not like, I know it sounds weird, I'm not saying I've been in something that was full of blood, but blood is, as the saying goes, is thicker than water. So it's harder to swim through. It is harder to power through, to drag yourself through it, because it's thicker, it's more dense. And it was, when he was trying to get through that, I was like, oh my gosh. Because I could, almost like I could smell the blood and the iron in the blood, and it was bleh. But it was so, like, fair play to Mark. How he got through that, I do not know, because he must have inhaled and had a lot of blood in his system. That was not nice. Like, it was just incredible performance, and everyone was amazing in that film. There was not one bad performance. I just there was parts where, like, my body sort of not cringed in a bad way, but like when Mark punches the speaker, I'm just like, ow, like, my bones don't like that new, like, but it was so authentic, like everything felt so real. It wasn't like overly lit, so it felt like a sub. Like, it felt like he was actually down with water, well, blood around him, and he was trapped. He had no way out. He couldn't see where he was going. He had to literally rely on the computer system that he had in front of him, and that is such a clever way of doing a horror, because you literally have nothing. You got no way of seeing the outside world. You're relying on basic resources, a machine that you basically have to put all your hope in. And I think there's a line he even says, I'm trusting you to the arrow. I think there's a line where he does say that. And that's because that literally is summing up the movie. He is entrusting his life on this map, which he's drawing. And then when he realizes he goes around a circle, he's like, why did I just waste this? And then he just sees the oxygen going down, and he's like, I'm wasting oxygen. You can hear it in his eyes. When you look at his eyes, you can hear him thinking, why am I wasting my time, wasting oxygen, just going round in circles? Like, it was so... You just had so much empathy for the character. It was so well done. And it was so rustic as well. It was almost steampunky, the way the sub looked. And, I mean, obviously it was based on the original design of the sub from Iron Lung. But the blood stains made it look like it was rusting. The way it sounded, the creaking, and it was just so eerie. And I loved that aspect of it. I loved how it messed with you. Like, the fact that there was things left for the character as well, that messed with you, because you're like, was there someone on this sub before that, you know, is not on now, and that's why you're here? Or is there something with you? Like, those shots of the creepy, I don't know how to describe it, mutilated blood figure. It was, it looked like it had, like, almost like a coral effect to its skin, and where it's, like, puckered, and, it was so creepy. And then that's also another moment where Simon has another breakdown, because he sees this creature sat in his chair, and then the creature gets up to, and he's hiding, and he's like, right, and he grabs whatever he can to defend himself with. And then he swings around the corner to go and attack it, and there's nothing there, and it's just, it's so gut and heart-wrenching. Like, you're just there on the edge of your seat. And I'm so glad as well there was no cheap jump scares. Like, none at all. There was like maybe, there's a thing here that's creeping in the darkness, but it wasn't like jump out at you every so many minutes. Because as much as I love Five Nights at Freddy's, there is a lot of jump scares, which a lot of time do get me, and I feel ashamed and embarrassed. But besides the point, I'm so glad that there was none of those in this movie. I'm glad it relied on just one set, because that made it so... The audience was with Simon to the very end, and it was just... Because we never left the sub. There wasn't any outside shots of the sub. We literally were relying on the movie through Simon's eyes. That was literally how I felt. Because even though we were watching Simon interact with the speakers, the machines and stuff, we were literally with Simon and only Simon. We didn't get it from the captain's perspective. We didn't get it from the other sub's perspective or the creature's perspective. We had it from Simon's perspective, and that was so well done to narrow the audience's point of view to literally being Simon's. And that also played with us as well, because when Simon was having his mental breakdowns, we were with him, so we were relying on what he was seeing and hearing until he realized he couldn't even rely on what he was seeing and hearing. And that was the thing as well, because the character of Simon was portrayed by his brothers. He says it because he says that what happened to that one station was not his fault. And you can tell he felt so much guilt, and as well as anger towards not just himself, but to his brothers, the people he considered his brothers who abandoned him. And when he talks to this mysterious female voice that he thinks is on a sub, and then she says his name, he's like, I've never told you my name. And he realizes that moment she's not real. Nothing is real. Nothing is right. And then he goes to talk. The captain eventually comes back on the speaker. He's like, you're not real because I tore this. And then he sees that he never tore it out. And it just plays with you because you're like, but was this real? Was that real? And then when he asks the captain for his name and she says, we didn't get it. And that was devastating because he's like, well, no one cares because they didn't even care enough to know my name. And it really cripples him because not only did his brothers betray him, he's been sent down to die in his mind. And probably on purpose by the people that sent him down. I was going to say by the company. I'm like, no, this is not Lethal Company. Oh, gosh. Could you imagine just halfway through the movie, Mark is just sat there, navigating through the blood ocean, and you just hear over the radio, we love the company. Yeah, anyway. I digress. But it was that moment, I think, where she finally gives her name, which is an invitation for him to share his name with her, that I think was one of the moments where Simon was like, I'm not alone. But then, just as he has that connection, he's then betrayed again by her, saying, I know I promised I would save you, even coming down myself, but I can't. That moment was like the final nail in the coffin for Simon, I think. because he fully trusted her, despite how many times he's been betrayed, not just by her, but by people he knew for years, probably people he considered his blood, his brothers in arms. And then she, after telling him by promise, I will come myself to save you, to turn around and say, I actually can't. That is such a devastating betrayal. Because that was an oath and a promise that she made to him. And he was on his last straw of trusting. And that was it. That was the last straw. But he realized in that moment, I can do something good with my death. I don't have to die and do it for nothing. I can do something with my death. And I think that was the final nail in the coffin when she said, I can't actually save you. I'm sorry. I think that was the final nail in the coffin. His final mental breakdown, right to the point of his death. And that was just so beautifully tragic. Because as someone watching it, I wanted to take away Simon's pain. I wanted to rescue him. I wanted to comfort him and tell him, no, it wasn't your fault. You weren't the only one there at the station. You tried to stop it. I understand. I really felt so sorry, because in the end, if he was innocent, he died an innocent man as well, which is double tragic. But no one's going to know that. That's another thing that's also tragic. No one is going to know his name. But towards the end, when the captain says her name to him and he gives his, that's also a glimmer that she might tell people who it was that sacrificed himself. I just thought it was just beautifully well made, well written, just a passionate group of people who came together and made this amazing movie. And I don't like horror movies, and this was amazing for me. Like, I would have watched it again, but I had some personal stuff I had to deal with, so I couldn't, but I so would have gone and watched it again. And it stayed authentic to the game as well without being over the top. Like, it kept the atmosphere. It just it just highlighted the qualities better of of the game. And it just made it so authentic. Like, you could believe this was a real world. You can believe this was a real sub. You could believe the characters. You can emphasize with the characters. You can fully believe the world, because that's the whole point of a psychological horror, is your world is being challenged constantly until the point where the eventuality happens. And that is sad but beautiful. The character of Simon, he sacrificed his freedom, he sacrificed his choice in the matter, and he sacrificed his life in the end. He had no choice going down in that sub to some extent, because he did it for his freedom, yes, but he probably just signed his name saying, I want my freedom, give me whatever task you want me to do. He had no choice in being stuck in that sub. They literally would not take him out of there. He was sealed in. The captain said he was sealed in. He didn't know he was sealed in. He didn't know about the camera and how it affected people and the radiation that comes off it. He didn't know about the other subs. He was literally told he was the first one, and he wasn't. He was lied to. He was constantly lied to. But in the end, he did make the sacrifice of just, because he knew he had no way out. So he just did what he thought he could do. He was thinking of himself throughout the movie because he was constantly abandoned and lied to. Especially by people you considered as family in like the flashbacks where at the station they, you know, blew the reactor or whatever happened. And he ultimately paid for he paid the price for the people that actually committed it. And he never got justice for that. And what makes it so beautiful as well is the fact it's done by a real human being who we've watched for years on YouTube. And I'm going to digress from the movie because one reason why I got so emotional watching this is because I've been a fan of Markiplier for years. And I'm not the only fan to say that it's been incredible to watch this amazing, kind man grow from making videos and sketches on his mum's dining room chair to him literally going on green screen and wires hanging from the ceiling, or just resting on his stomach on green screen, or him literally like jumping off balconies with fake blood on his hands to demonstrate how shots should be done. It, like, from him doing all these projects over the years, seeing him grow as not just a YouTuber, but as a writer, as a director, as a businessman, because obviously he has Cloak and he has his hit podcast, Distractable. But he's done all this stuff and we've watched him for years. He's been on YouTube for over 10 years and he's invited us as an audience to watch him through all that time. And it's so incredible and it's so lovely to get to see. To be invited into someone else's world. And to see him grow and challenge himself constantly, see him through his highs and his lows. And just being invited in part of his daily world. Seeing his tears, seeing his sweat, seeing his joy. His passion shone through this project. That ultimately went from being a project to being this amazing movie that's been able to be shown not just in America and Europe and UK, but expanding so far. It's just, and especially in an era where AI has taken over a lot of, you know, platforms. Like, I can't go on Facebook without questioning what videos on there are AI. I can't go on anything really without questioning whether it's AI or not. And it's so refreshing that within that era of reality versus AI, reality versus AI, that someone is able to create an authentic movie that is, you can tell it's been done with heart. It's been done so passionately with sleepless nights. Like he said, he on Distractable, he has been losing sleep, working on this, getting in contact with people, editing, and, you know, emailing and doing all this, working so hard for all this time on this movie. And it's just so well done. I love it. I love the fact that this is done with real people. Real actors, real writers, real directors, real engineers. And, you know, obviously there was fire in the movie. So people who, especially, you know, are you know, people that take out fires and stuff like that. Like, these people were real. These people put all their time and effort into this, and it was just incredible. I just wanted to say I'm so grateful for this movie and for what Markiplier has done in general. And while I don't know Mark personally, the closest I've ever been to him has been when I went to see him on his tour back in 2018. But I've never met him. I've never talked to him. I've only watched him from the other side of the screen. And I just want to say, I'm so proud of you, Mark. And I am so grateful for what you've done for your fans, for your community, for the people in your personal and work life, for how authentic you are, how brave you are, how much you make an impact on this world, and how it's such a positive impact. Markiplier doesn't know who I am. Like, that's fine. But I've always considered him a friend. I've always known that I can go home and watch one of his videos and it could brighten up my day. And I'm not the only one. There are so many fans out there that he's impacted and he's done so much for. Honestly, there is not enough words that I can say right now that can express how impactful this movie and your time on YouTube has been to your fans. You've done so much. You have proven so many people, especially big companies like the big, the people at Disney and DreamWorks and stuff. You have proven what one man can do. And that is amazing. So, this movie proves what someone's passions can make. What hard work can do, and what someone's will and drive can accomplish. What it can manifest. It's just incredible. For all those who want to achieve something that seems impossible, Mark is an incredible role model for. It's amazing to have seen you grow on YouTube and to do this. It's just inspiring. It really is. So I know I haven't actually talked about Iron Lung much, besides saying how much I love it, because it is a good movie. Like, well, I say good. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. But I just wanted to say, Markiplier, die down. Just die down. And if you don't know what that means, well done. Just well done. And thank you so much for everything. For giving us a window into your life and sharing your life with us. For all the charity work you've done and from day one. The donations and events. But also in general, just for being authentic. For just being genuine. And just being you. for being so kind and caring and enthusiastic and crazy. Thank you, Mark. And I'm now going to steal your outro, if you don't mind. So, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!